We have with us Dr. Rangarajan, former chairman of the PMEAC and of course more importantly former governor of Reserve Bank of India. Also with us is Sonal Varma, economist at Nomura Financial Advisory. Sonal and Dr. Rangarajan, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Rangarajan, you first 5.7%. Would that be the annual number you think, or you think the annual number could even be closer to 6?
Well, I think the growth rate can be anywhere between 5.5% and 6%. There are factors which can push the growth rate even higher if manufacturing picks up very strongly in the second half of the year. But agriculture will not do that well. I don't expect the growth rate to be very negligible, and therefore the overall growth rate as of now can only be put between 5.5 and 6, perhaps closer to 5.5, therefore somewhere around 5.7% rather than the 6%.
Okay. Let's go across to Sonal Varma as well, economist at Nomura Financial Advisory. Sonal, hi, good morning. Thank you for joining in. Do you think that the growth could perhaps normalize over the next 2 quarters, considering that the government will be committed to fiscal consolidation, which would mean that the spending that we saw this time around in this quarter will not pan out? Spending could actually be constrained going ahead?
Yes, absolutely. And, we should be worried, in fact, if all the growth is going to continue to come from government spending. Therefore, there will be some payback in the next quarter. But I just want to take a step back and just highlight, how significant the momentum is in the June quarter. If you seasonally adjust this, then on a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted annualized rate basis, GDP growth actually has been close to 8.8% in this quarter. And non-agriculture GDP growth is about 9.5% in this quarter. So the momentum actually has been exceptional and basically takes us 2 years back after almost 2 years of stagnating around 5%. And therefore one should expect some consolidation, some payback in fact, given government will be doing some belt tightening and also the fact that agriculture growth will be lower. But I think that should not be too much of a concern, because ultimately business cycle turnarounds are driven and sustained by what happens on the investment side and not on what the government is doing. In fact, we could see crowding in of private investments if government cuts back on the right kind of spending, and that is our view, that private investments, of course, greenfield capex will take time to pick up, but there is an attempt by the current government to solve the problems that various investment projects are facing, and therefore debottlenecking should drive a gradual pickup on the investment side. And therefore second half of this fiscal year we will see a bigger impact of the growth numbers.
Actually, Dr. Rangarajan, that's exactly the point I was wanting to ask you as well, the points that Sonal highlights in terms of the big bounce up, actually, seasonally adjusted growth. Look at some of the numbers. We've had gross fixed capital formation contracting for the past several quarters, several times in the last 10 quarters. That's come in at 7%. Likewise, exports at 11%. I mean, there are these, even manufacturing, in the past 10 quarters, I think 8 of them, we had contraction in manufacturing. That's 3.5%. You witnessed these cycles in the past. Maybe in 2003, there was an inflection point. There was an inflection point perhaps in the early 90s as well, in the mid-80s as well. When you get these big numbers in capital goods from periods of contraction, can the bounce up be very sharp?
Well, you look at it in terms of the investment rate. I mean, investment as a proportion of GDP. A point that I have been making for some time is that despite all the other factors, the investment rate has remained high. I mean, it has been around, even the fixed capital formation rate has been around 30 to 32%. And therefore, one of the reasons I have been emphasizing that has been responsible for the slowdown in growth in the last 2 years has been the failure to get the output out of investment. This happens because either there is a delay in the completion of projects or because there is the complementary investments have not been happening. Therefore, going ahead, I would believe that the pickup in manufacturing output will come if we take the right steps to ensure that we get the right output out of the investment that we are making. Now, certainly, there is a pickup in investment. There is a quarter-to-quarter or month-to-month basis, there is an increase. But ultimately, the answer lies not so much in the fact that whether the investment rate will go up further or not, but the fact that whether we will get the adequate output out of the investment. And therefore, lots of things that need to be done, whether it is in terms of environmental clearances or land acquisition, all these problems will have to be resolved if you have to get the right output out of investment. I think this is the critical point that we face, but I do believe that the decisive verdict in the election itself is an important factor in influencing investment, because investment is largely influenced by sentiment also, and therefore to that extent the results of the recent elections are also a factor contributing towards improving the investment sentiment. But actions are also required in order to ensure that we get the maximum out of the investment that we are making.
Exactly. So Sonal, just come in on your forecast, because Dr. Rangarajan said that he expects about 5.5% to 6% by the end of FY15. What would your forecast be for this fiscal year?
So for this fiscal year, we are expecting around 6% in terms of overall growth. Agriculture, of course, is going to be close to zero. But the non-agri side, particularly the manufacturing, construction, the transportation side, which has not yet participated, we are expecting those segments to pick up. I would also add, that obviously investment is what we are focused on, but even consumer discretionary demand, which is driven by, things like real disposable incomes, confidence. I think some of those fundamental drivers of even consumer discretionary demand are now stabilizing to improving. So on the rural side, of course, while there will be some moderation this year, we should see a bounce back on the discretionary side of demand, apart from the pickup on efficiency, like Dr. Rangarajan said, and potentially a pickup in sort of more debottlenecking of investment projects that will happen.
All right, that's the forecast from two stalwarts, two people who watch the economy very closely. And now, Dr. Rangarajan, for the more important reason why we invited you today, in 3 days from now, Rangarajan completes 1 year as Reserve Bank Governor. First up, sir, what marks would you assign out of 10?
Well, he has done extremely well. I would say the performance has been outstanding on several scores. I think when he took over, the country faced a very severe balance of payments problem. But I think he handled it so well, so finely, that there was a sudden turnaround. And I believe that not only the actions that he took, but the manner in which, the decisive way in which he dealt with the problem, resulted in the exchange rate picking up. There were external factors which are also helpful.
Of course.
What caused the the immediate decline in the value of the rupee was the May 22nd statement that was reversed later on. So that helped. But certainly the decisive actions taken at the time showed very clearly that he had thought through the problems even before becoming governor, and therefore even on day one he was able to go full steam ahead. And therefore I would say on the external side he has done extremely well. The rupee has stabilized, and the balance of payments, the current account deficit is very modest now, controllable level. And also I think on the monetary side, on monetary policy side, he has laid out clearly what his thoughts are, and I agree with his approach, and that has been my approach also, that the dominant objective of monetary policy is price control.
Okay, so you would give him what, a 9 on 10, 8 on 10?
Yes, no, almost close to 10.
Oh, wow, the 10 on 10, okay. So Sonal, come in on that. I mean, Governor Rajan was speaking to some of the print media over the weekend where he said, I'm no James Bond, I'm just a banker on the move. How would you rate his 1 year at the wicket?
I mean, I would completely agree with Dr. Rangarajan. It's been outstanding. I think primarily in terms of creating the nominal anchor and the framework for monetary policy. We can debate about 8 or 6 or 4, but people are now focused on a moderating inflation path, which is quite encouraging, and the positive effect that has had in terms of stability in the external sector, value of the currency. But I think other than the focus on monetary policy, his focus has also been in terms of resolving some of the issues on the NPA side, the governance structure of public sector banks, focus on financial inclusion, the broader development of the financial market, the dependence now on the term auction rather than just the overnight repo, LAF window availability. So there are a broad set of changes, not just on the monetary policy, but I think other than monetary policy side also that have taken place. And I think the stability, the macro stability that a lot of investors ascribe to India, obviously because of the government, but also because of the steps that the RBI has taken, is to a good extent because of his vision.
Dr. Rangarajan, it is still work in progress at our end. We have been doing a widespread poll of various parameters on which governors are normally judged. Now, while it is work in progress, on one scale where Governor Rajan has not scored very high is in banking regulation. I mean, it's not a unanimous vote or anything like that, but there are some who have believed that he could have asked for more demanding reporting of NPLs, that the banking sector is still very wobbly as to asset quality. Your rating on that score?
Well, regulation is one of the functions of the Reserve Bank, and please remember, this was a time when the energies of the governor were also absorbed in dealing with many crisis issues. And regulation is, in fact, is not something that you overnight turn it around. Regulation is something that takes time for things to happen. And I think he's set on the right direction. I mean, I think the whole objective of regulation is really to create stability in the banking system. And I would still say that what we see today is the result of whatever that has happened or whatever actions that have been taken previously. Perhaps the NPA rise is also due to the fact that there has been considerable slowing down, particularly in the manufacturing sector. Therefore, I don't think you can blame it on regulation for what we see.
Okay. So you would rate him very high even on the way the banking sector has been handled? How high?
I think so. I mean, I think that's my view, yes.
Okay. Dr. Rangarajan, just one final question then. If you had to, give Governor Rajan any advice or any points on how to better the monetary and the fiscal framework, what would your recommendations be?
Well, I certainly believe that the clear monetary framework is called for. I have mentioned it before in one of your programs that even keeping an 8% target as inflation goal by January 2015, to my view, is very high. I don't think we should. I think we should aim at something lower than that. Therefore, in terms of fixing a target for January 15, we should work towards a much lower target. Then only it will facilitate reaching the 6% target at the January 2016. Therefore, I would argue with him that perhaps we should work towards a much lower inflation target by January 15 on the consumer CPI inflation. But on the other hand, I think we need to put the monetary framework in a firm position, and I think we should work towards it.
Okay. Well, Sonal, finally, do you want to give marks to the governor on 10?
Well, I think 9.5 out of 10.
All right. Sonal and Dr. Rangarajan, thank you very much for joining us in this very interesting analysis of both the GDP numbers and Rangarajan.